The following podcast is intended for mature audiences. If you enjoy our work, please like, comment, subscribe, and follow the links in the description. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
Greetings and salutations, listeners. I, Eric J. Chucky, joined, as always, by the boy.
Hey!
Gosh.
Just fucking crank the little bucket up.
Yeah. I thought the Royal Rumble was this weekend, was tonight, well, last night.
You know what? Someone actually explained to me why it isn't to this weekend. And it was really clever on Vince's part. I have to give a shout out. Next weekend's the Super Bowl. The weekend after next. The weekend after the Rumble is the Super Bowl. This weekend is the final championship footballer game before the Super Bowl. So he put it on the weekend without any football in between the last football game and the Super Bowl.
That's smart.
That's damn smart.
I could have sworn when I was looking up the schedule for 2017 that it said it was the Sunday before this podcast went up. And maybe I looked at 2016 and just went, yes, the boy should be back by then. But, and didn't stop to think, wait a minute, that's too many days to be a week. I don't know. I don't know what happened. Max Landis also thought that the Royal Rumble was last night, so I don't feel too bad.
He made a bunch, and he literally works for the WWE.
Yeah.
He has a consulting job with them.
Right.
And he did a tweet with a bunch of angry Michelle Obama faces that it wasn't yesterday.
Also, before we dive into things, if our audio sounds odd, first things first, if you're wearing headphones, or have any sort of proper speaker setup, you may notice we're coming at you in stereo.
Whereas previously we were delicious 1930s AM radio mono sound.
But that was anachronism stew. That was.
Yep, that was the intent.
I got a new mic. It's a gorgeous mic. It's got
bibs and bozzles and whombers.
It's got 3 dials on it.
It's got a mute button in case I can't listen to this asshole talk anymore.
Going to save you from me. But so if we sound weird, I apologize. It's going to take a little fucking with to get it to sound perfect.
But it's a fancy new microphone, and we're super happy to have it. So
yes. So this week we are not talking about anything in specific
because we were planning on doing the wrestling podcast, and that's not an option unless we want to just watch Raw. And no.
Well, and furthermore, this is usually where we do the fighting game tournament, but for some reason I thought that was closer to February, if not even in February.
Which, I mean, I guess it is this year.
I suppose so. But that'll be coming at you guys.
Got some new
soon.
Fighting games too.
Yeah, it's going to shake up the roster a little bit. I wish our fighting game tournament were in May so that we could make use of Injustice 2, but I think Injustice 1 is backward compatible now.
Why isn't it? Do you think that there's some independent international governing body that determines when the fighting game tournament is?
If we make any leeway for this game, we'll have to do it for the next and the next and the next. And I don't mean that it's in, by guilt. It'll be like, but if we wait just 2 more months, we can have this game.
Fair. Absolutely fair.
I wanted last year to do 2 to make it biannual, but that didn't happen for some reason.
No, other shit happened. We just forgot.
Oh, I remember why it happened, because every day was a pay-per-view.
Yeah, the part of the year where we would have had that was fortnightly WWE pay-per-views, and then the weeks we spent recovering from the fortnightly WWE pay-per-views.
I mean, I remember 2 years ago when every now and then, and this is real talk behind the scenes shit, listener, you and I would get into some knockdown dragouts over what we were podcasting about. That did not happen for most of 2016.
No, say this for the WWE. Say that they gave us fucking material.
I'm glad it's over with now. I'd knock on wood, but here we go. That's not the desk. So, what have we been doing lately is basically what we want to talk about.
What the two nerds been up to?
Nerding.
Mostly, yes. Well, which many of the many nerd topics do you want to start with Old Man Yells at Cloud?
So I have a really good excuse to cut you off.
Okay, good. So
I'm going to open my Cavassier here. Hold on.
Mentioned probably a couple times that I'm a nerd on this podcast. You may have noticed. I am an avid, lifelong reader of fantasy novels and urban fantasy novels. I'm a nerd. I'm a geek in the oldest of senses.
He eats chicken heads.
Okay, sure.
You don't have a pocket protector, though. I'll say that for you.
I don't have a shirt pocket, and I don't use pens because it's 2017, and I type on a computer like a fucking civilized human being.
I wish you kept tiny keys in your shirt pocket.
Just little extra Ks in case mine goes bad.
In case it goes bad. Well, I mean, if you look at my keyboard, I have one of those fancy, like, light-up ones, and...
It's slowly becoming a constellation of withered-out keys.
Yeah, the fucking home row, the left-hand first four, they're gone.
I know.
They're just gone.
Yeah, mine, I'm a gamer gremlin, so for me it's WSAD, and then QWER
I
gone.
thought those were going to be the ones that went away faster, but no, it was left-hand home row.
You're a typesman.
I guess I am. So yeah, you're a nerd from way back. You earned your nerd credit at an early age.
Yeah, and it was with various nerd things. Specifically, I fucking read a lot of fantasy novels as a kid, both the classics and shit that nobody remembers. A lot of crappy dime store sci-fi, a lot of like real shit fantasy novels. Although special highlight mention goes to one series I read as an adult, and that's the Gore novels. Don't look them up; they're really bad, in real fucked up ways. But
I'm actually reminded of a pursuit we had to go on to find a series of fantasy novels I read when I was in high school by Craig Shaw Gardner, who did a lot of Conan the Barbarian stuff. I don't remember the name of it off the top of my head. It's something about a wizard. If you look up
you'll find it.
Yeah, you'll find it.
So
funny stuff. You can look those up.
I dropped out of that for a few years. I started reading more urban fantasy, and I got into the Dresden Files, and that was a big chunk. And I got into a couple other series, and they were big chunks. And then I was, television, video games, work, and I mean, he's doing the buy my book thing. So,
you should link in the description.
Also, what is legitimately my favorite book is in the series of Colt Regan Demon Hunter. And that I always mention that because it's true. But I sort of fell off the train. I sort of fell off hey, what's the new popular fantasy novel? What's hot with the presses right now? What's the New York Times raving about?
Yeah, because I had to clue you into a couple that seemed pretty interesting recently, and you had heard of them, but
I keep up. I just haven't been reading them because I've been reading other things or gaming or working my day job or doing the podcast. So I recently made late last year, I made a point of trying to get back into popular modern fantasy. And I both mean that in the sense of urban fantasy that takes place in a modern world, and regular fantasy that was written recently. Oh my fucking god, is it annoying. And this isn't, it's probably me being a grognard, but also I think I have some legit complaints here. For those of you who follow the Two Nerds on Twitter, you will already know what this is about.
Which you can also do in the description.
I went on a Twitter rant about this earlier, and I never tweet. I don't know when it happened. I want to lay the blame at the feet of the fisherman hat wearing fuck that is George R.R. Martin. But he, I imagine, was just a maturation of a trend that had been boiling under the surface for a while. I don't know when modern fantasy authors became incredibly pretentious 14-year-old goth kids and or incredibly pretentious litfic writers who are just fussy academics who sit and write stuff that they can circle jerk with about in their college courses that they tutor. But it happened at some point. They fell in love with both themselves and myopic, self-centered, self-aggrandizing, narcissistic, cynical asshole characters. I don't just mean protagonists, I mean literally every character in their fucking books. And it's incredibly frustrating to read because these are talented authors. Their craft is on point. They have snooty, smug, self-satisfied prose, but it's well written. And their plots are meandering and pointless and only exist to serve their characters' unbelievably juvenile sense of nihilism.
Well, okay, so here's the thing. You likened it. I'm gonna give you a little breather to let the red ring calm down a bit, but you likened it to the early '90s when Frank Miller and
Alan Moore,
got real big in the comic book scene, and how everything after that was serious business. I mean, the '90s are
the
basically
Dark Age.
Sure, the '90s are the modern catalyst, especially in the comic book scene, for the gritty reboot, and that branched into film in a different way in the 2000s.
That's actually, they use the exact same terminology.
Mm-hmm.
They call it gritty and realistic because all the characters are self-centered, egotistical twat bags. No, that's not realistic. I've met a lot of people, and you know what? There are a lot of self-centered douchebags, but there are also a lot of people who aren't self-centered douchebags. And most importantly, this is a very important thing, cynicism is not the default state of reality. I need to really make sure that's clear. Because cynicism is no more the default state of reality than blue sky, Narnia novel optimism is, okay? They're equally disassociated from actual events and motivations. Because the characters in these novels are promoted as being realistic and three-dimensional, and they're flawed, and if you don't like them, that's just because it makes you uncomfortable and challenges your preconceptions. No, I don't like them because they're unlikable, self-motivated turds. That's why. Now, I want to talk to you about the thing that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Special mention to the First Law trilogy. That was awful. Incredibly well written, but has all these problems I'm talking about. And Patrick Rothfuss's books, for the same exact reason, and a lot of others that I don't have time to go into. But the one that broke the wall, the one that made me mad, was The Magicians by Lev Grossman. The Magicians is the most cynical, mean-spirited, two-dimensional, hack job writing, fucking thumb at the nose of fantasy as a genre and fantasy fans. There are entire sections of that book where he's just making fun of nerds. I don't know who the fuck thought actual fantasy fans would like this. This is a fantasy book written for people who think they're above fantasy novels. That's what The Magicians is. And as a statement from the people on the other side of that divide, go fuck yourself.
Well, this has been a trend for a while, and it's, as I said when you told me about it, it's nice to hear someone agreeing with me for once, because I felt this way about a lot of media, especially when I did my big TV experiment a couple of years back. When I was watching critically acclaimed shows like Lost and Mad Men and shit like that. And a lot of the stuff my wife watches, honestly, like Shameless and, Big Love. Big Love was better because there was, God damn it, there were some people who were decent human beings. But,
and even the people who were shitlords felt like they were shitlords for real reasons,
sure,
not just because the author wants to be deep and meaningful.
Well, and I mean, regardless of your reasons, you create a bunch of characters who are unlikable. You create a bunch of people who are mixing about as well as oil and gasoline and matches. And
having an unlikable protagonist is not a bad thing.
No.
You can make a great book with an unlikable protagonist. I made a joke earlier that the protagonist of The Magicians, Quentin, is millennial Holden Caulfield. And Holden Caulfield's a great example. The Catcher in the Rye is an amazing book, and Holden Caulfield's an insufferable shit.
Sometimes my favorite characters from all kinds of media are terrible. And I don't just mean he's doing a bad, but like the reason. You love Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren's a garbage can. I say that as a joke, but he's a self-centered, unable to listen to other people, raging, moody teenager who never grew up. He's a garbage can, but he's a great character.
Sure.
He has legitimate motivations that feel organic. He's not... Oh, I could go on at length about my problems with The Magicians, but let's talk about other things.
Well, I mean, sure. Another character to that credit, and perhaps with my secrecy I might entice you, the villain in the third cult book.
Absolutely. The villain in the third cult book is detestable. But at the same time, like, there's a part of you that gets it. His motivations are human.
Yes.
They're understandable. They're not motivated in pointless pedestal-watching angst. My God, I hate that stuff.
It doesn't serve much of a purpose. It's not... Usually in these situations I like to say, well, it's not for me. But it's so permeated into the zeitgeist. The Walking Dead, to a lesser extent. Game of Thrones, to a greater extent.
No, Game of Thrones has likable people in it.
It does. But, I mean, I was just
Survivor. Excuse me. Lost. The fictionalized Survivor.
No,
It has no likable people.
It started with some likable people.
If there were likable people, like, even the ones that aren't on my hit list, aren't the one that was the first Law trilogy, has a great villain protagonist. One of the 5, the rest are shit, but has one who's really well done. Logan Ninefingers is an excellently drawn, incredibly well written villain protagonist. He's a bad person who lies to himself and is myopic and has a very carefully constructed view of himself that makes him the hero of his story when to anyone outside of him, it's really clear that he's not. The rest of that book is shit. The Magicians has none of that. There is no one likable in that book. It is just a parade of dickweeds.
Well, and that's the difference between, I mean, at least Lost had Hurley. There's nothing going on in Mad Men.
No, it's just a parade of shitty people being shitty to each other.
Yeah.
And that's been a thing on TV. I think we've agreed on that before. But they're invading my safe space now. They're invading my happy place. Get the fuck out of my fantasy novels. Your toddler running around in his fucking daddy's clothes level of maturity is not welcome here.
Cynicism is a dangerous thing, both in the literal definition and in the greater mindset that, you know, that's like a more toxic version of regular old pessimism.
I'm a pessimist.
Pessimism is a balance to optimism. Cynicism is bordering on nihilism. It's just unhelpful. You know, it's like the difference between somebody who thinks things aren't going to go well and Grumpy Bear, the Care Bear, who is sure to announce it to everyone.
I have so little use for cynicism in my life. Yeah, the real world's shit. We all already know that. We don't need movies for it. Anyone who wants... If I actually said this when I was talking with someone about one of the other books that made me mad. If I wanted to watch assholes be assholes to each other for no other reason than just to get more power, you know what I'd do? I'd watch a fucking news.
Yeah.
I don't absorb stories for that. And if that makes me childish and not willing to have my preconceptions challenged, I say that again because I read like 19 reviews of the Magicians today, and all of the positive ones say that people won't like this because they're too childish to handle it. Fuck you.
Oh, I mean, it's ego. And then when one person with enough ego says the things, you get hundreds of people parroting those words. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But without even really looking into the meaning.
But I don't want to be mad anymore.
No.
What else is happening?
Let's move on. Ariana Grande is a unit in Brave Exvius, and that's strange but good.
I mean, it's very Japanese.
It is, and I love seeing it happen in a game that's so big stateside as it is, because the other Final Fantasy games, other than Record Keeper, didn't really get very huge over here. But even still, Brave Exvius blows it out of the water.
Exvius is super popular.
Oh yeah,
I hear people talking about that shit at my day job.
Yeah, it's good. It's fun. It's a really good gacha game. They've got really good incentives. They always are handing out free shit. You know, it's quality stuff. I mean, you get the same amount of people bitching, and, you know, if there's a change that happens, the miles of threads on Reddit of, I have never been so insulted, I spent $30,000 on this game, and I didn't get the unit I wanted, and this is your fault, I don't have a gambling problem.
Is there like any particular reason you did that in TV voice?
Oh no, no, I was just being, I don't know, a dick, I guess.
Fair enough.
He's more jovial, but yeah, it's good. Marvel Heroes also did a big update. While a lot of that rubs you the wrong way.
You know what? It does in the end. It does, but it's not as bad as I had feared. I will say that they took out the fun parts of the game for me. They took out the parts that I had the most simple, enjoyable fun with.
Yeah, and by fun parts of the game, you mean that really satisfying, instant gratification impulse. You know, I push the button and a cool thing I like happens.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Just a very simple, like, behind-brain, atavastic fun. Just click, click, click. I click the button and my man goes from here to here and does a cool animation. Yay. Like, it was just simply enjoyable. And they took that out of the game to a large extent. But it's not as bad as it could be. Because some of the other stuff they changed, I actually really like.
As much as I'm still really reeling with, adapting to it, I like that status effects are more of a thing now. Like getting slowed or frozen or turned to stone.
Instead of just being, well, I can't click for like a second. It's important. Because you might not be able to dodge the rings, and the rings, you got to dodge them now.
Yeah, and I mean, there's like visual effects, and I feel like my character's slow. Or, when I get hit by Gorgon's eye beams, I turn to stone. Visually.
Well, you did that before. It's just that I
didn't.
Well, you didn't, but like they optimized it to let that show on lower graphics.
Sure. Yeah, I like a lot of the changes they've made. Some I'm not so hot on, but you'll have that with any huge update. We'll probably talk about it more at length because they haven't proper rolled out their 2017.
Yeah, when they changed numbers, I think would be the proper time to handle.
Because then we'll be able to talk about what we're looking forward to in the next hero pack. And Beast is coming soon, but we've still got Black Bolt, Nick Fury, and I think one other person before they're done with that. So, what the hell else have I been doing? Playing more Final Fantasy 15. I'm going through that game slowly, but good God, do I love it.
I'm glad you like your boy band game.
It's precious. I've never so carefully sifted through a pile of selfies I didn't take to select the best ones. That's not true. That's not true. There's been times on the adult side of the internet where I've sifted through a lot of selfies I didn't take to select the best ones, but in an innocent environment.
Fair enough. The other thing we've been doing is Civ 5.
Yes.
We got Civ 5. We may have mentioned this on the podcast already.
Well, I don't know. I don't think we did. Maybe in brief. But one of you out there, lovely listeners, mentioned that we should play a strat RPG together. And the boy doesn't like most modern strat RPGs.
RTSs. There's a difference.
I suppose you're
turn-based and real-time are not the same thing.
You're absolutely correct. I apologize.
But one I do like, because I played an earlier version of the game a lot in my youth, is Civilization. I played Civ 3 with my brother-in-law, who I mentioned a couple times on the podcast, and my sister a lot. Like, we would play games, we would play multiplayer games, and I had a copy, so I played it a lot. But, I mean, I didn't touch any games before it or any games after it. But then, during the Steam Winter Sale, I found Civ 5, not Civ 6, not the new one, but Civ 5, and all of the expansions, which retail for about $150, on sale for $12. So I bought that because I'm not a fool. And then this fellow here bought a second copy so that we could be placed together, and it's been super fun.
I actually attribute it more to my wife. She was the one who pulled the trigger on that, but yeah, I just saw him having a good time with it, and I was like, hey, I like having a good time with my good friend the boy. And we rarely trek over to the console much anymore when it's not fighting game season, so
So we were playing Civ 5 together. We played a couple games, competitive, and a couple on the same team. He's played actually a pretty much, I would say, more solo Civ than I have this time.
I've got more free time.
But it's been super fun. They made a lot of changes. It's come a long way since the third game. I understand the sixth game goes even farther, but it's not $12 for $150 value. So I'll wait. It's okay. I'll wait.
I'm good. It's a really fun game. I know I'm going to get bored of it eventually.
Same. Like, I did eventually get bored of Civ 3,
Mm.
but there's a map maker, and you can make scenarios, and there's a whole bunch of challenge scenarios I haven't played.
Mm-hmm.
We played on lowish difficulty because I have a life. Full stop. I don't plan on making it to the highest difficulty of that game. I don't need my E-Peen to be that big. It's okay. I'll be bad at Civ. I'm fine. I got shit to do.
I'm still learning. I wouldn't say I've mastered it. I know how to play the game. But I'd like to... Every time I think it's time for me to move up to the Prince difficulty, I think, it's... something happens that makes me go, oh, I shouldn't do that. Because you and I ran a game where all of our opponents ended up really deprived of resources. So yes, we stomped them into the ground, but can we really say that we're ready to move up to the next difficulty?
Because it was a custom map, and it was the first one either of us had made, so some resource placement didn't go exactly how one would plan. It didn't work how we thought it did. So, like, we were the only ones who had good resources by accident. So we fucked them up. But
it was embarrassing for them.
But that's not the same. But then we started another multiplayer game where we were competing instead of being on the same team, and I got the perfect start. I was basically all alone on a continent with island chains all around me that ringed me entirely in by archipelago of like city-states, and they were the only city-states in the game, and I was the only one near city-states. So I had all of the city-state allies before anyone else did, because I met them thousands of years earlier than everyone. There was one other civilization on that continent, and they were my bitch, because I got way ahead of them and then just demanded things from them and bullied them around, and there was nothing they could do about it, because I could have crushed them at any moment, and was casually like thinking about it, like, I kind of want the whole continent to myself. Should I kill these people?
I've been doing that in the new solo game I started. I started playing as Polynesia. I've been eyeing them for a while now. And France is on my continent. And France keeps being an asshole. Like, France owns the western coast of the continent. And I started in about the center. Like, if this were America, I'm like smack dab in like North Dakota territory.
And then you expanded out eastward, I take it?
Yeah, and I expanded out eastward. And they were like, hey, could you not settle near us? And I'm like, excuse me?
They mean on the same continent as them.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay. You see that town you settled near mine? It's mine now. He's like, hey, can we negotiate to stop this war? And I was like, give me your town. He was like, well, that's unacceptable. And I said, okay, no, it's still going. And then a couple turns later, he was like, hey, you want this town? I'm like, yes, I do. A message has been sent. But now that that's done, and I'm like, I've got my resources back, every now and then I just look over at France and go like, I think I kind of want this continent to myself. But in the game we played, where Boy had that beautiful start, I was surrounded by 3 other
nations on all sides of him.
Yeah, and like the other sides I had were water and icebergs. So it wasn't like I could escape. And 2 of them were warlike and just kicking my shit in. And when I say I was surrounded, I mean these motherfuckers settled up on my dick. Like on my borders. It was the worst. And then I made every bad decision. Like,
he handled it in the worst possible way, and I knew you handled it in the worst possible way.
Oh, but I was furious.
But you were you were super, like, you were Salt Man at the time.
Yeah, no, that would have
so
been
it wouldn't have been good for me to tell you, dude, you're handling this in the actual worst possible way.
Well, and, like, a lot of that I hadn't relayed to you until it was well too late.
Until it was like, that happened 1,000 years ago, and I went, oh no. Because we were on opposite sides of the map. I had no fucking idea what he was up to. I was just having a little... I was just being Babylon. Having like a 2-era science lead on everyone else in the game. Which always feels great.
I was keeping up with you until I had to fight the Celts.
Yep, and then I just got a 2-era...
You rocketed off into space.
I had a fully... Well, also, Babylon... Okay, one of the reasons Babylon is my favorite civilization so far in Civ 5, and there's a bunch I haven't tried, is because they are hands down, if you're trying to get a science lead on someone, they're the best. Yeah. They're just better at it than everyone. They're the S-class Civ. They get a great scientist, like, for free, basically at the very beginning of the game, and that pays so many dividends because they get great scientists 50% faster, that you can, unless you're a goober, get an unsurmountable tech lead on basically any other Civ.
I so far really liked Shoshone. I haven't completed a full game with them yet, but every time I play them, I'm in a good mood. I liked the Iroquois. They were pretty cool. Polynesia's going about as well as I thought it would. I had a good time with Rome. I wasn't expecting to have a good time with Rome, but
I want to try the Shoshone because I want to try an explorative game, and having their scouts be, not pansies would be great.
Yeah, that's nice. And being able to pick what you get from ruins is fantastic bonus. It's a great way to get a really strong early game start. So that even in late game,
because then you can get one of the things you get from ruins is ancient technologies. So you just pick technology every time.
Yeah.
You pick a tech every time.
Yeah.
Well, the first one you pick is give them the thing that makes them a 1-hub higher unit. Like the thing that makes them a unit from the next era up.
Right.
Maybe pick that twice to get yourself like a swordsman when everyone else is on warriors, because then you can just crush through any barbarians you see. And then just pick technology until the end of time. Until you run out of units.
Japan is fantastic. I had a great time with what the hell? Starts in Ethiopia. I made one city. Well, I eventually made a second one just so I could do sea trade because I didn't quite understand how coastal tiles worked.
Your city has to be on them. It can't be that you own them.
Right. But I had one city and I kicked so much ass.
He basically, until he made the second city, did a 1-city challenge and won.
Yeah. I mean, I was on really low difficulty, so it wasn't like it was crazy, but I fought off invaders. Japan got tired of my shit and was like, we're going to come fight you. And I'm like, okay.
I played this one game as Rome on a custom map I made where I did one unbalanced thing in the scenario. I gave everyone a big chunk of starting gold, all the civs, and some starting culture to just jumpstart everybody. And then I put myself alone on a continent. And admittedly, that's somewhat unfair. But it ended with me stomping giant death robots through all the other civs when they had pikemen. So I felt pretty good about that.
One of the things I liked about that I'm enjoying right now about Polynesia is that you get ocean travel for free as soon as you can sail.
Nice, that's awesome. That's really good.
It is really good. I also want to try Denmark because you can embark off the bat.
Oh, that'd be good early game.
Yeah. Well, and also, Polynesians have Maui heads, and if you fight near them, you get this crazy bonus. And if you line them up on coasts, you get crazier bonuses. No one's ever taking my cities. Unless there was a resource, my coastline is just cool stone heads.
You have the Vlad Tepes wall with stone heads instead of real ones?
Basically. I saw a mod for a Vlad Tepes, and I thought that would be really cool to play as. He had some cool ideas, but I don't know. I want to try to do that myself, first, but good God, is the coding dense. And it frustrates me because I can see where you could have just turned this into a push-button interface.
But they didn't, though.
They didn't. So, I don't know. Maybe they do it in Civ 6. That'd be awesome. If not, Civ 7. There's an idea. Fucking make it easy to mod.
Make it easy to make your own civs.
Yeah, make it easy to make your own civs. Make it easy to make your own.
Because making scenarios is actually super easy.
Yeah, make it as easy as that anyway. Map was super easy. I enjoyed that. I reproduced the Final Fantasy VI map. We fucked that up, so I went back and I did some edits, and now it's got good resources and pre-starting
city-states.
Well, not city-states, but pre-starting city locations. So, yeah, it should be pretty good. But, anything else we've been up to?
No, that's about it. I mean, obviously other stuff. We watched the first episode of the new Jason Momoa series on Netflix. It looks good, but it's a little slow, so I can understand if someone didn't want to watch it.
It's okay.
Other stuff here and there. I haven't seen a movie since the beginning of the year. I just haven't felt like it.
I haven't been alone. I like to watch really cheesy 80s and 90s movies, and I don't like to bother people with it.
There hasn't been a movie I really felt like watching. But, you never know. And we got new comic book movies coming out later this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a good year for
comic book movies.
And there's other movies I want to see that are coming out this year. They announced the new Star Wars coming out in December, so The Last Jedi.
I spent a week on the road, but
Ain't nobody want to hear about that.
That's boring. That's boring to talk about on the podcast. I think that about wraps us up.
I think that does. So leave us a comment if the audio was too fucky for you.
Yeah, because it sounds fine to us, but you're the listener, not us. So if it sounds weird or if it's something you feel like we could use some more work on, let us know, please. Other than that, everything's better when nerds talk about it.
Is that a question?
Fuck it, let's get high.